Hi, I'm Christina, and this is New Wayz podcast. Today, my guest is a breathwork facilitator and man of the world, Javier Moyano. Thank you for being here again with me.
Hello, hello. Good to be here.
Hello, hello. I love that. What we are kind of going to dig into today, since the holidays are coming up, and I know I'm going to be faced with this, I'm pretty sure you faced it already this year, is how to incorporate your new life with your old life. And I mean that in the sense of anybody who's stepped out of their comfort zone, stepped out of their normal programming, their normal upbringing, and moved to a different city, moved to a different state, decided to like remove toxicity or old friends, family members from their lives, and heal and grow. It can be difficult oftentimes to go back to those same settings, go back to a town where it's not your ideal fit anymore. Be around people who only know the old version of you. So in this episode, we're kind of going to talk to how to not abandon your old life, but how to combine your new self with your old self and find a good balance. Because a lot of people are like, set boundaries, avoid the people. But a lot of times that's not realistic. We don't want to have to let go of family members or friends or not go back to old places that feel nostalgic to us.
Right.
So let's get into how to deal with that.
Yeah. What a topic to be able to speak on too, especially during this time of year. Like a lot of people do go back like home for Thanksgiving and like Black Friday and stuff. So
Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. It's
it's
pretty much, and I don't believe in obligations, but a lot of people feel obligated to go back home.
Right.
To AKA their old lives in a different period of time that they've experienced for the holidays. They feel like they have to go back to their hometown. They feel like they have to go meet up with family members.
Right.
Once again, I don't believe in obligations, but I think that you should be able to incorporate the two because it can be very important, especially if you do want that in your lifestyle.
For sure.
So why do you think oftentimes it can be extremely triggering and difficult going back to places that we once lived in or were surrounded by?
I mean, I could take it to like a personal note. And
any note you want to take it on, let's go.
And I say like for me, even though like I do favor family and like that's a big value in my life. And I like while I was in the Navy, let's say like I would always go back. Like anytime I have time off, like I would go back to my family's house. But yes, these emotions would arise where it's like I've changed so much since I've been home and they're still operating in a way where like, oh, this is 18-year-old Javi, like the same way. He's still doing stupid stuff. So I think a big part of like this uncomfortable feeling or just like learning how to go back into that environment, go back into that environment without, it starts with just like knowing that who you are now is someone that they haven't really seen often. So they are still operating from like, okay, the Javi they know is the old Javi. So I guess like,
facts. People are going to remember you for the person that they've spent the most amount of time with.
Right. So, So for me, like going back home, the reason why like I kind of would feel uncomfortable going back home sometimes, or like I didn't know how to deal with this. Like, okay, this is the new Javi, but I feel like I have to operate from the old Javi.
You feel like you have to operate from the old you.
I had to, yeah. Before I recognized who the fuck I am, but
yeah, well, because going back to those old environments, I mean, the body loves comfortableness and repetitive. And once again, like we are known to memorize things. Like our brain will represent certain surroundings or certain people with certain events in our life. So it's no wonder why when you go back to certain areas or you see certain people, emotions that are not your baseline now get brought up because when you're with that person or you're in that environment, that was your baseline.
Right.
Yeah.
I do think it's special though to recognize that those things are coming back up though, because like I know when I left my house, yes, I wanted to go explore and be my own person, but also I was uncomfortable with the situation, kind of like with my father, and like I just didn't want to be here. And I know I was kind of running away from things that I wasn't facing with them. So like I was able to become my own self, and which I know was purposeful and I was supposed to. And then like while I was in the military going back, I started recognizing even more those emotions would arise even more. And I'm just like, why am I feeling like...
So when you were away from them, familiar emotions were coming up. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying when I was away from them, I came back like to
Oh
visit,
yeah, when you come back, of course. Yeah.
But I'm saying to like recognize that and know that, oh, okay, like I've grown, but there's still this part of me where I like my younger self and things that I was running away from when I was a child, it's still there because you didn't fully face it. Yes, obviously, maybe. Yeah.
I love how you said because you didn't fully face it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, obviously, it's not like where you're operating from anymore and stuff like that, but it is still there if it does bring up this emotion. So I want people to recognize, like, honestly, it's a chance to work through some shit that you haven't in a while. And like, instead of, coming back home, you want to have this pleasant feeling of coming back to something familiar and stuff like that, not like these uncomfortable feelings. So I think, if you're feeling up to it and you get the chance and these emotions start arising for you, be like, okay, why am I feeling weird? Oh, it's because I haven't worked through this thing with my family yet. Let's see if I could do this. So next time I come back for Thanksgiving, I could fully enjoy it and not just be stuck on like, damn, I remember when Poppy did this, or, just like really be purposeful and fully enjoy the moment that you have with your family.
Oh no, definitely. I do think that you made a lot of amazing points there, but I do think that there's a lot to the point that you just made. For one, yes, I do believe, and there's one thing that's been proven is that like we rewire our brains. We can retrain ourselves if you choose to. So it does take you being conscious of like, hey, this is something that came up. Let me face it. Let me acknowledge it. It's probably coming up because it's not something I faced before.
Right.
On that note too, I will say with family members, I have been in situations where they will bring up things from the past that I've fully even fucking forgotten about, or maybe not forgotten, but I forgave myself for it.
Right.
So like that wasn't really even the back of my head, but like once again too, take that with a grain of salt, because just because you've done the healing, just because you've done the work does not mean that your family members have.
Right.
So that's where the balancing act comes in, is staying true to who you are and remembering who you are, not feeding into the stories of what the people are telling you, because once again, you can't really blame them.
Yeah.
I mean, you can if they don't want to like stay in touch with you and also like meet this new version of you, but you also can't blame them for operating in the way that they used to, especially if they haven't seen anything different or experienced anything different. Yes, allow them to meet the new you, but at the same time, like, just because they're saying you are this way, that does not mean that you have to go back to that old belief or that old person. It's about honoring both. And that's where it can get a little bit difficult, because you want people to see you now for who you are, right? And then when somebody sees you as the old self, that's what's triggering. I can't tell you how many times where I will be talking with a family member and I see my old self pop up, because like they brought something up from the past that I've kind of forgotten, and then it's like a vicious cycle, and then I have to catch myself and I'm like, holy shit. I haven't, to be honest with you, like when I scream the most, and this is not something I'm proud of, it's mostly with my family. People tell me often, they're like, I can't see you getting that aggravated, because I'm usually a chill person. I usually just joke around with a lot of things. The last time I was like, I've screamed over the phone was at a family member, and I was like, holy shit, who the hell am I? And that's because that was our baseline. So it's like me recognizing, okay, just because I did slip up this one time, that's not me anymore. And hopefully now that hasn't happened since, because I caught myself and I realized, oh, me now being around this person, me being in this situation, it triggered me. And there's probably going to be other times in my life where they're going to trigger me again. Right. But I can't control them, and I can control my narrative and who I am. So I think it's being conscious of both and not forcing who you are now on these other people, because you are setting yourself up for failure in that aspect.
Yeah.
I show up and I choose to be like present in the moment and take it for what it is, versus like trying to force my beliefs on them, which I think is a thing, or also like trying to control it.
Right.
I think for me, acceptance of what's been going on has been the most powerful thing when trying to incorporate the two. Is seeing things for genuinely what it is and trying to appreciate it for what it is, instead of being like, it should be this way. I did this, so you should do this. That's never going to work out well. What's been a time with your family members where you felt triggered, and how did you handle it?
Recently?
Whenever. Something that's a reflection of, you're like, I'm not going to fall into the same cycle. I'm not going to be avoidant and just completely like run away from this and ignore this person I want in my life. I'm going to stay here and still stay true to who I am now.
Yeah. But
not try to do it in the easiest way possible. Not try to add more fuel to the fire.
Right.
Yeah.
I'd say with my brother, because he's living at the house in Julian with the whole family. And we've always kind of butted heads because we operated very differently. I've always been, again, like super intuitive and like trust that more than anything. He's very analytical, and like he.
Okay.
And so we're like, and we've always butted heads. I'm like, dude, like I was always the action taker, and he was always the analytical guy, and like having to know like the ins and out, everything before, after, like super analytical. And that would frustrate me like crazy. Like that would trigger me so much before. And it's funny, I knew coming back home this time, like, okay, that's something that I'm going to have to see how I operate through it now and see how I could operate better with it. And I actually love how he still operates that way, because it challenges me to like operate in that way as well. Because I know since I'm so intuitive, like I let that guide me more, but you know, you have to have a balance of both.
You do.
And I know I could be a little more on the intuitive side and just go into things like, you know, crazily, but he having these conversations with him, it would trigger, like I could see, like I would try to explain something to him and he just needs to go like deeper and like specifics and all that stuff, where for me, I'm able to receive something when somebody just says something kind of simple. Because I get the energy from them. Mm-hmm. But him, he's much more like, it needs to be said a certain way for him to be able to receive it. And I was like, oh, this is I literally have somebody on my side, almost like a teacher, my brother. And like, so now I'm seeing him as somebody who's helping me become just more balanced in the analytical side as well. So at first it was like, growing up, it was such a challenge because I'm like, bro, just do this. Like, why are you thinking about it so much and all this stuff? And now I'm like, oh my God, I'm able to meet him here actually and like operate in this analytical way. And I love it. I could see why he loves operating this way.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my goodness, like, thank you for offering me this. When before it would trigger the shit out of me and I would just like, would do an action instead of meeting him there. You know what I'm saying? Like I would be like, no, like I'll go away. Or, yeah.
But see, so that's the thing is like, you saw the blessing in disguise in a way. You saw it as a way for you to be like, okay, I'm on this like best version of me type of journey, which I don't want to get that twisted with always feeling like you need to work on yourself, because you're not broken. You don't always have to work on yourself, people. But I do think you should always strive to be the best version of yourself. Why the fuck not? I'm convinced I will be learning the rest of my life. And I love
Forever
that.
Students.
Yeah. I don't ever want to stay like, let's go, dude. Let's evolve. So I love how you brought it to the point and saying, instead of letting this trigger me, I'm going to use it as a way to actually like be my superpower and fuel me and make me a better person. I think that's great. As well as like a key thing was you accepted him for who he was and you didn't try to change him. And instead of once again changing him, you saw it as a challenge and you're like, I'm going to make this change me instead for the better. But I remember too, when you first came, because you were traveling for months, right?
A year.
Yeah. Okay. A year. You traveled for a year. And then I was one of the first people you saw when coming back to California. Yeah.
You picked me up at the airport.
Yeah,
Thank you,
I did. You're welcome.
So
You're so welcome. I remember because that was something that was prevalent in my life, at least, is like, after being away for so long, it can be a shock going back to these places.
Yeah.
And I'm like, just don't set yourself up for failure and expect people to be a certain way.
Right.
Yeah. How do you think you kept that not expectation? Or do you think it was because your family was so receiving it made it easier?
I think
a mix of both.
Okay. Yeah. Again, I operate from a place of like just seeing blessings and everything. So like, I've always kind of operated there where I'm like, I just have a positive outlook on everything. Like I know everything's going to end up in a good way, especially if my intention and like the energy that I'm putting in this is really pure. So yeah, just keep being me and keep putting that like pure energy out, and that allows.
Now I'm curious though too, because you haven't seen your dad in a minute, have you? So you're going to see your dad.
I saw him this summer, but it was before ayahuasca and stuff.
Okay,
yeah.
So you haven't seen your dad in a minute. How do you expect that to go?
Amazingly.
You expect it to go amazingly.
I'm faithful. A lot of faith. I have a lot of faith going into it, I'd say.
I get that.
Yeah.
I'm like, maybe we should be doing this episode after the holidays to see how we handled it. But so yeah, I would say what's worked best for me is going in without expectations. Because when you do expect people to operate at your frequency, at who you are, like you are setting yourself up for failure. Because you come in all shiny and bright, and then like then you kind of frustrate yourself when things don't meet your expectations. And I'm talking about like very, very basic level, because like I'm not saying we're like the epitome of mental health, right? I'm not saying that, but we have done a lot of work and we've put ourselves in situations and have grown. But for very basic people, one thing I would say is like take everything with a grain of salt. Go in without expectations And I love how you're like, have faith.
Right.
Because the one thing that's been really relevant in my life, at least, is like, I set boundaries. I think that's a big one, is setting boundaries. Like, I won't always go home if I feel like it's going to be detrimental to me, if there's a lot going on. But something that's been really cool that I've loved watching is when you work on yourself, I feel like it is infectious, and it's not going to be as fast as you would like it to be. But one thing that I really appreciate and I respect, and I've seen in my family, especially with my mom, and that's been something that's like, she's triggered me so much. She is my biggest trigger, to be honest with you. I love her, but she's been my biggest trigger. And I really appreciate how a few years ago when I would talk about mental health and wellness or like my feelings, a lot of times she would shut down and say, I just can't talk about this right now. You know, like, you're making me sad. And that's where I would get frustrated, because I'm like, I just want to be seen, right? A lot of times when you go around old friends or old family members and you are more vulnerable now and you're open and you don't have your guard up and you don't have this wall you built because of them up, you want them to see you. And sometimes they still can't see it yet because they have their goggles on. They still see that wall you built, or they're the reason why you built that wall. So a lot of times, like, I would try to talk to my mom about these emotions because I'm finally ready. I'm an open book. I feel like my heart's been broken open finally. And it wasn't perceived well. And that really like used to dig into me sometimes.
Right.
But then now I accept it, and I accepted her for who she was. And it's funny though, because the second I accepted her for who she was, and I would like not try to force emotions on her, and I would try to just communicate effectively and realize when enough was enough. Like, I would say what I need to say and how much she could take. I would try to gauge where she was at. She's slowly grown over the years too. And that's what I find so beautiful, is like, keep that faith in a way. Like, also take everything with a grain of salt, but realize when people can meet you where you're at, or maybe eventually they'll get there. It's not a lost cause. It's no sense like giving up on these people and labeling them, because if you change, they can too.
Right.
But don't expect it to be at the same level at the exact same time. Just
keep putting your intention out, and like knowing that they're always able to come and try to work on it with you. Like, you keep that open for them. But obviously there's a level where you stop directly putting so much energy into it. Like, yes, this is where I am. This is how I want to operate with you. And if you ever want to come and work on this with me, great. And so, like, right now, I do think my dad's going to receive it very well. Obviously, it might affect his ego a little bit in the beginning. But
what do you mean by affect his ego?
Meaning, I'm his son, and he's always been in this position like, oh, you're my son. Like, why are you telling me how to live life and stuff like that? And I get it. Like, he kind of showed me a lot growing up. He taught me how to do a lot of things. And now it's like flipping the table. But I've already done this twice, like in my life and my relationship with my dad. So this is like the third time. And I'm like, oh, okay. This is like when I'm actually fully able to do it, coming from a place of just coming from a positive place. Like, the last times I faced him was like coming from anger or coming from fear. And now it's coming from like forgiveness and stuff. So I think the way he is going to receive this is much better. And I'm not saying that he's going to, it's going to fix everything right away, but just showing how I'm operating now and showing him like what I want and for the family. And I know a lot of his beliefs, we have a lot of similar beliefs in what we want for the family as well. So I think he will receive it well, but obviously if he doesn't right away do it, I'm not going to keep dragging it on and be like, okay, you need to do this. No. I'm going to say, okay, Bobby, this is how I want to operate. This is how I am going to operate, because it's who I am now. And if you want to, come here and we could talk about it and work it out, great. But obviously in your own timing. I'm just putting this out now so you know where I'm at. And you can meet me, or we could just accept where we are.
I definitely say, like, try to speak your piece. Try to, like, say, this is what's going on. This is what's important to me. But also on that note, too, I want to say that sometimes you can't get a word in with people. Sometimes it's just too fucking much. And that's when you have to just, like, breathe. Honestly, breathe, take a beat, and say, hey, it's not worth it. I know who I am. Once again, I'm going to tell this to myself. This is my boundary. If they like, and that's it. Like, sometimes you can't get a word in. And I do get that that's with certain families. And I love really how you said that, like, it's not going to fix things, because I don't want people to also get this misunderstood with what happened in the past or anything like that, because I do get everybody's situation is sensitive and different. I don't want them to think that this means that what happened in the past was okay. You know what I mean? But there is a difference between forgiveness and moving forward and still acknowledging what happened. That doesn't mean that you forget. That doesn't mean that you don't also like protect yourself when needed. That doesn't mean whatever happened wasn't wrong or was right. I don't know the circumstance, but it's just kind of like acknowledging it for what it is and trying to just like move forward in the most intentional way that's going to make your heart the most like filled.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I really love how you said that. But I also am curious too, do you think, I've heard this, it's like not survivor's guilt in a way, but do you think that people can feel like shameful or guilty going back to certain situations where they operate at one way and you operate another? Like, you mentioned though too how a lot of people would be like, well, that's not the way we do it here. And then some people might feel like, oh, I don't fit in anymore because you don't. You're a new version. How do you think people deal with that then? Like, it's really weird when you go back to an old environment that you used to actually like fit in a lot and you're like, fuck, I don't actually really belong in quotations here anymore. How do you think people deal with that?
Like the best way to go about it is what you're saying?
I guess, yeah. Because I mean, you want to like, okay, say like it's not even your family, but you're around your hometown, right? And your friends, and they want you to like drink and you're not a drinker anymore.
Right.
And then they're like, you don't fit in, and you start to kind of feel guilty for who you are because you're just like, shit, I did change, even though you're supposed to change. That's what you're supposed to do in life. Guys, hate to break it to you. But you know what I mean? It's always like that you changed thing. And then like you could either take it with like, yes, I changed, or fuck, I did. Because I guess it was a bad thing when people say you've changed before, right?
Right.
Yeah. How do you think you deal with that?
I think I can't say for everybody else, but for me, like just recognizing that what they're bringing up to you is coming from a place of like, you know, guilt is not like a high vibrating emotion. Like
it's not.
So they're like, okay, so you could recognize like, oh, these guys are operating from here, and this is somewhere that you don't want to operate anymore. So I'd say just like becoming aware of like where they're operating from, and recognize like trying not to take it too personal, knowing that like, okay, these people still this is how they're operating. Not that you're better or nothing. It's just not where you are anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
I love that. Not that you're better. I don't. Yeah, exactly. No hate on what anybody else wants to do. I don't perceive myself as being higher than you or better. Right. It's just that's not me anymore. I think that is key, because the second like somebody feels diminished, regardless if you diminish yourself or you diminish them, that's just setting yourself up for failure, I think. Right.
So just being like your truest to yourself. And honestly, it might like vibrate to the people around you. Like maybe they needed you to see you out of the group to like make a change in themselves. So if you could see it like in a positive way, any way that you could see it in a positive way, you being your most authentic self, be it, do it. Yeah. Yeah. That's how I would go into it.
I do love that. I also think something that I've been really embracing lately is my dualistic personalities. You know what I mean?
Let's go into that.
I like, that's the thing though. I think it's so cool because I feel like oftentimes people think that they have to be one way or another, right? It's either like I was living in this environment and I'm this way, and now I moved out to this area and I'm this way. I kind of correlated it recently because it's raining in LA, you guys. So I've broken out some of my like Chicago clothes, which is not what I wear on a daily basis at all. Okay. But I'm like, certain clothes get me feeling a certain way and I act a different way. And you might be like, why am I in this environment acting a different way? I'm like, as long as it's not a triggering thing and it's not a negative emotion, like if a certain area brings up like things you liked about the past, feed into that. Hell just because you're in a new way doesn't mean you can't go back to the old shit and be like, this is still a part of me. I will say it all the fucking time. Like, I love Chicago for like the work ethic and kind of like, as much as I'm a lighthearted spirit now, and I used to fight being hard for so long, now I'm definitely a softie, but I'm like, I love how I can still be a hard ass. That's what Chicago gave me. And going back home and listening to my rap music and wearing like my baggy clothes, like my dark clothes instead of my light ones, and having that personality, it's fun. I think the key to a lot of these things is learning to find the best of both worlds and combining them. You know, I don't know, because you're two different people. I feel like often you're barefoot in a jungle and you're about to go to Boston. And I feel like oftentimes people get skewed in their brain. Who am I? Always questioning who they are because we feel the need to label things, or we feel the need to identify as one thing. It's either like, I'm hood or I'm a hippie. I'm tough or I'm soft. You know what I mean? But you can have absolutely.
I'm a hooded hippie. Like,
I'm a hooded hippie.
Yeah, why can't I be that?
That's why I'm like, there's this clothing brand called Spiritual Gangster. And I'm like, that name is just dope. I love that. But that's the thing is like, you can be all these things. I don't know where we got this misconception of like, you have to be one way to fit in some ways, or you're disobeying your old self or your new self if you decide to switch it up. Like, you're not a fucking poser. If it's something genuinely you like, you can be absolutely everything. Like, who gives a shit? And I know this has been kind of intertwined in this entire episode. But what are certain things that you... Okay, so somebody's getting triggered. They're back home. They're anxious. Somebody says something. De-escalation. What's your best way to de-escalate a situation?
Damn. De-escalating a situation.
You get triggered right now.
Yeah.
Triggers are treasure, you guys. Reflect. Definitely reflect. But you're not going to reflect in that moment when shit's going on.
Yeah.
De-escalate in the safest way possible.
Walk away. Like literally like, okay, I need to walk before you react. If that's the way you could do. Because some people like it's either you're going to explode or, take the action and leave.
Yeah.
And, if they see it as disrespectful, literally it's not. It's a sign of respect. Because
but that's on them too, yeah.
Exactly. It's a sign of respect because you don't want to explode on this person. So you're going to be like, and then take some breaths and be like, okay, this is how I was going to respond to this. But now that I'm able to calm down my heart rate and go for a little walk, I'm like, oh, okay, this is where they're coming from, Sometimes you need a little time away from a triggering point, So that's how I would do it. I don't know.
No, I completely agree with you. My first, when it comes to de-escalation, and this you can use in absolutely anything, relationships, like even if you're not in an environment that's triggering or around people that are triggering, if you get triggered by anybody, my de-escalation tactics, I feel like are first, I will never cut anybody off mid-sentence because usually if somebody's on a fucking rampage, they want to finish their rampage, okay? They do. So if you walk away, there's a chance that someone might come after you. Yeah. So I usually will just like sit there, and this has been triggering for people, and I'm like, that's on them too. I'll sit there and just like look at them and acknowledge what they're saying. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they'll want a response. Yeah. And in that case, I've been met with the response, so what, you're fucking zen now? Okay, whatever. You can think what you want. You can do it, say what you want. But I will just like sit there, I'll acknowledge and be like, okay. And after you let them finish their thing is when I say definitely walk away. Walking away mid-sentence might not be the best way to handle things because once again, people might come after you. I would say let people finish whatever they got to get out. Let them get it out. Fuck it. Maybe they just needed to,
Yeah.
Everybody's got to release in some way, shape, or form. Some of it's healthy, some of it's not. Definitely let them walk away. Take a beat, take some breath, calm your little fucking monkey mind that wants to go over there and like punch them in the face or scream at them or cry or break down.
Right.
After that, take a few breaths.
Yeah.
And then like, that's when I would get into reflecting. I would come from a non-judgment way on their part and on your part. Don't go blaming yourself for the way that this other person acted, as well as don't go blaming them for how they acted, because we are all living in the same world, but in our head are two different things going on. Yeah. So I would just like reflect on the most, like, what's the word I'm looking for? In the most conscious way possible.
Yeah.
Like you said before, see what's serving you, see what's not serving you, take everything with a grain of salt, take what resonates, leave what doesn't. And then after that, you can kind of also plan how to address this person in the future. If it's somebody you have to see again very recently because you are in the same household. Yeah. Learn how to just be mindful and what's best for you. I know biting your tongue might suck, but if it's a learning lesson. Like you said, you've learned how to deal with family members because you see it as self-growth. I think that's a very, very good way to look at it. Right. And then after that is like, then you decide how to move forward. I wish I had a clear explanation on how you should move forward, but I don't know what's going on in your brain. I don't know what's going on with your family or your friends. Yeah. That's something you have to decide. And I would just say, come from the most heartfelt way possible for the good of all and the harm of none. That's it. Do not let your ego get in the way. Do not like let your monkey brain go on a rampage and say, how can I get back at them? They're wrong. Like literally just come from like a heartfelt place. That's my thing, is let your fucking ego down. The ego loves to protect us. You don't need to be protected. Okay. Yeah. You don't. You just need to like, I just feel like when you're coming from the heart and like just genuinely what you need and this other person needs, that's the best you can do. And at least at the end of the day, if it's not perceived well by them, you can say that you did what you thought honestly in your heart and your soul was best for you and everybody else. That is how I would say move forward.
Yes.
So to wrap up then, I am curious, what is something that's you love that has stayed with you from the past? And what is something that you've completely fucking dropped?
Wow.
What do you mean, wow?
That's a good one.
First thing that pops in your head, baby. It ain't that deep.
I'd say just like me jumping into things.
Okay, that's something that you've still kept or something that you...
Something I kept.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. I'm definitely a big believer in just jumping into your excitement, your intuition. Like, even if it doesn't look the best way when you first get into it, like, I definitely still operate from that way. And I'm so excited that's like how I still operate.
That's
and I think
nice,
it came from the whole hero thing. Like, and I still watch anime today too. So that's great. Like, I'm always gonna use that. Like that's
Yeah.
that's where it's coming from. That's where it stemmed from. So
That hero energy. I fucking love it.
I love it.
Okay. And something you've dropped.
Something I've dropped. I'd say comparing myself to a lot of people, like comparing on how they're acting and how they're operating, and thinking that I have to operate the same way. I'd say that's something I definitely dropped. I'm recognizing like, Javi, why are you trying to please these people? Like, operate your best self, and the people who are gonna see that and recognize that, they'll be around you, and people who don't want it, they'll get out of your life. And so I'm just like, okay, Javi, and I really like adapted that now. I've always been myself, but I have
There's levels to the shit.
There's levels to it.
Yeah.
But I know like when I was younger, a lot more times, like especially when we had people over the house and stuff like that, I would put on this persona. Like that wasn't me, you know? And I was just trying to people please. And I've done that for a long time, even till recently. So I'm happy I dropped that.
Okay. I love that for you. Mine would be, I had this conversation with somebody recently because we were talking about clothing, and this isn't my serious one, but to be honest with you, I stopped wearing a bra since moving to LA. I can't remember the last time I wore a bra. I fucking love it. Same. Chicago, I would, because I had to feel proper at the time. But same, hobby, same. That was something where I'm like, I just think that's so funny. I still have this drawer and I never open it. But no, on a more serious note, I would say that the one thing that I have kept from my past life is I would like to think a little bit of like my pizzazz and my attitude. Something that I've always had is kind of, actually I feel like maybe I've embraced that more, to be honest with you, because I've always been very outspoken. And that's probably something that it's also just like grown, also hence the podcast. I never thought I would have done this before, but like I just feel like I've always loved to have fun with things, and that's something that I've kept, and I hope I never fucking lose, is like not being scared to be like very vocal. And I hold a big presence to me. I always have, regardless if I was in my anger stage back home or in my happy stage here. I love the presence that I hold, and I will continue to hopefully keep that. I won't shrink. It keeps growing. So that's something I think that I've kept. What I've left behind is my anger, I think. I'm just like, I've read somewhere that like angry kids are kids who feel unheard, and I definitely felt unheard. And like misunderstood. I'm just like, I let the anger go. I hold no anger or resentment to anybody. It might come up during certain situations, but I feel like that's not something that I carry on the daily anymore. And I've definitely became more soft. That's why I feel like now words influence me so much more, because I allow myself to feel where I never felt before. I was hard as a fucking rock. So I think that's something that I left that has been serving me lately.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Damn.
So thank you for sharing that very vulnerable stuff with me, Javi.
Of course.
I appreciate you.
Let's do it. That's honestly, that comes with part of like just jumping into things. You know, you're going in with like basically a mask on because you don't fully know how to operate where you are, where you're jumping into. So I think I've learned how to be more vulnerable in doing this. So
yeah, thank you. You've been vulnerable. I appreciate it. And I'm very curious to hear about all your holiday endeavors.
Oh.
So,
yours too.
I know. I'm going back home this year, actually.
Well, we're gonna be kind of close to each other.
Oh yeah, Chicago and Boston. Part of me is like, my sister's in Boston. I kind of wish I was going there with you. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh well, I'll be back.
I know, but still, you know, the gist of things. But thank you so much for being here at this time, having this conversation with me, Javi. I love you.
Love you too.
And until next time, you guys, thank you for listening. I love you. Bang.
I just love the tongue thing, really gets it.
Oh, I have to stop sitting like that.